Part 1. The Stain of Disdain. The city of Atheria was a symphony of contrasts. Gleaming skyscrapers pierced the clouds, while beneath, in the shadowed alleys and forgotten corners, lived those whom the city had left behind. Alex, a man with eyes that held the weight of untold stories, was one of them. He was custodian of the city's underbelly, a janitor whose days were spent sweeping away the grime and collecting the refuse of the privileged. His hands, callous and worn, bore witness to a life of quiet resilience. Richard Thorne, a titan of industry, a man whose name echoed in the halls of power, was the antithesis of Alex. His world was one of opulent penthouses, high-stakes deals, and an intoxicating scent of unchecked power. He moved through life with an air of invincibility, his eyes cold and calculating, his smile a mere facade. Their paths crossed on a day that began like any other. Alex was cleaning the entrance of Thorne Industries' headquarters, a monolithic structure of steel and glass, when Richard emerged, surrounded by his entourage. Alex, his head bowed in respect, moved aside. But Richard, his eyes filled with contempt, paused, his gaze lingering on Alex's worn uniform. "Filth," he muttered, his voice laced with disgust. "You people are a stain on the city." The words, sharp as shards of glass, pierced Alex's soul. He had endured hardship, but never had he been so openly dehumanized. A fire ignited within him, a burning ember of resentment that threatened to consume him. He wanted to lash out, to strike back, but he knew it would be futile. He was a shadow, an invisible man, while Richard was a force of nature, untouchable and unchallenged. Alex retreated, his heart heavy with a sense of injustice. The city, once a place of survival, now felt like a cage. He began to observe Richard, to study his movements, his habits, his weaknesses. He learned that Richard was a man of routine, a creature of habit. He learned that Richard was a man of secrets, a man who guarded his reputation with ruthless efficiency. One evening, Alex found himself drawn to a dimly lit bar, a place where the city's forgotten souls gathered. He sat in a corner, nursing a cheap drink, his eyes scanning the room. A conversation caught his attention. Two men, their faces etched with desperation, were talking in hushed tones. "Thorne," one of them whispered, his voice laced with bitterness. "He ruined my life, took everything I had." "He's a monster," the other replied, his eyes filled with hatred. "He gets away with everything." Alex listened intently, his mind racing. He realized that he was not alone in his resentment. Richard Thorne had created a legion of enemies, a silent army of the wronged and the forgotten. He began to cultivate these connections, to weave a network of informants and allies. He learned that Richard's empire was built on a foundation of lies and deceit. He learned that Richard's wealth was tainted by corruption and exploitation. He found out about a secret deal, a shady transaction that could bring Richard's empire crashing down. He found out about a hidden ledger, a record of Richard's illicit activities. He found out about a woman, a former employee, who held the key to Richard's downfall. Her name was Clara, a woman with eyes that held the pain of betrayal. She had been Richard's confidant, his trusted assistant, until he discarded her like a used toy. She had seen the darkness that lurked beneath his polished facade. She had witnessed his cruelty, his ruthlessness. Alex sought her out, finding her in a small, run-down apartment on the outskirts of the city. He told her his story, his voice filled with quiet determination. Clara, initially hesitant, saw the fire in his eyes, the unwavering resolve. She agreed to help him. Together, they began to gather evidence, to piece together the puzzle of Richard's crimes. They moved in the shadows, their movements shrouded in secrecy. They knew that Richard's eyes were everywhere, that his reach was long and powerful. One night, as they were working in Clara's apartment, a sudden noise startled them. They heard footsteps, heavy and deliberate, approaching the door. They froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. The door burst open, revealing two men in dark suits, their faces grim. They were Richard's enforcers, his silent guardians, his instruments of fear. They had found them. A chase ensued, a desperate flight through the labyrinthine streets of the city. Alex and Clara, their adrenaline pumping, dodged and weaved, their pursuers hot on their heels. They reached a dead end, a narrow alleyway. their escape blocked. The enforcers closed in, their eyes filled with cold determination. Alex and Clara, their backs against the wall, prepared for the inevitable. But then, a sudden distraction, a loud crash from the other end of the alley. The enforcers, momentarily confused, turned their attention to the noise. Alex seized the opportunity, pulling Clara through a hidden door, a secret passage that led to the city's underground network. They vanished into the darkness, leaving their pursuers bewildered and frustrated. They emerged in a forgotten part of the city, a place where the homeless and the desperate sought refuge. They found shelter in an abandoned warehouse, a place where they could regroup and plan their next move. They knew that they were in danger, that Richard would not stop until he had silenced them. But they also knew that they had a chance, a slim chance, to bring him down. They had the evidence, the secrets, the knowledge. They had the power to expose his crimes, to shatter his empire. The city, once a symbol of Richard's power, now became a battleground, a place where the shadows fought against the light, where the forgotten sought justice against the privileged. The stage was set, the players were in place, and the final act was about to begin. Part 2. The Shadow Strike. The abandoned warehouse, a haven for the city's forgotten, became Alex and Clara's fortress. The air was thick with the scent of damp concrete and the unspoken fear of being discovered. They worked in the flickering light of a single bulb, meticulously organizing the evidence they had gathered. Richard Thorne's crimes, once hidden beneath layers of wealth and influence, were now laid bare in the form of digital files, handwritten ledgers, and recorded conversations. Clara, her eyes reflecting the cold determination that had taken root within her, worked tirelessly. She knew the intricacies of Thorne's operations, the hidden accounts, the shell corporations, the illegal deals. She was the architect of his empire, and now she was its destroyer. Alex, his mind sharp and focused, coordinated their efforts, reaching out to their network of informants and allies. He knew that time was their enemy. Thorne's reach was vast, his resources limitless. They had to act quickly, decisively. They decided to leak the evidence, to expose Thorne's crimes to the world. They knew that the media, hungry for a scandal, would seize upon the story, that the public, outraged by Thorne's corruption, would demand justice. They sent anonymous tips to investigative journalists, attaching encrypted files that contained the damning evidence. They uploaded the hidden ledger to a secure server, making it accessible to anyone who dared to look. They released the recorded conversations, revealing Thorne's callous disregard for human life. The city erupted. The media frenzy was immediate, the public outcry deafening. Thorne's name, once synonymous with power and success, was now dragged to the mud of scandal and corruption. His empire, built on a foundation of lies, began to crumble. Thorne, his face contorted with rage, tried to contain the damage. He issued denials. He launched counterattacks. He threatened lawsuits. But it was too late. The truth was out, and it could not be contained. He turned his attention to Alex and Clara, his eyes filled with a murderous intent. He knew that they were the architects of his downfall, the ones who had dared to challenge his power. He sent his enforcers, his silent guardians, to hunt them down. Alex and Clara, knowing that they were targets, moved like ghosts through the city, staying one step ahead of their pursuers. They used their network of informants, their knowledge of the city's underbelly, to evade capture. They knew that they had to strike a final blow, to deliver the coup de grace. They decided to expose Thorne's connection to a notorious crime syndicate, a shadowy organization that operated in the city's underworld. This connection, if revealed, would not only destroy Thorne's reputation, but also land him in prison. They found the evidence, a series of encrypted messages that linked Thorne to the syndicate's leader. They decrypted the messages, revealing the details of their illicit dealings. They prepared to release the evidence, to deliver the final blow. But Thorne, sensing their intentions, moved first. He orchestrated a raid on the warehouse, sending his enforcers to seize the evidence and silence Alex and Clara. The raid was swift and brutal. The warehouse, once a haven, became a battleground. Alex and Clara, armed with makeshift weapons, fought back, their determination fueled by a burning desire for justice. They managed to hold,